Welcome to the Gals podcast
Really. I
on
mean,
our Zoom.
it's been interesting. You never know what's going to happen. I feel like it's constantly changing. And
What, like the virus stuff? Like the.
yeah, that and like all of us trying to like change as we go with like our normal activities to try to make something happen, like even as far as church goes and as far as the podcast goes. Um, I feel like we're constantly having to really think about and really prepare whatever it is that we want to do. I'm grateful that we are able to do it
Yeah.
in the time because I think it's really helpful, but it's just too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of change in such a short amount of time.
Yes.
A lot of different. Well, your routine is completely changed, and my hours have changed. I'm going to bed at midnight or 1 o'clock instead of, I don't know, 11 o'clock, and then waking up at a quarter to 10 just because you don't have anywhere to go. So it's like there's no
Yeah.
pressure to get up, and then you're actually even more tired. Um,
Yeah.
so that's not fun. But like you said, being grateful to continue to do these things has really been helpful for me. And one of the things I tell people is to keep your brain just distracted, keep it focused on other things, because if you don't, you'll just go crazy with
Yeah.
depression and
I was
anxiety.
talking about this last night at our meeting, but
And we had a
we as a
CFF
whole,
meeting, small
yeah,
group meeting for our church.
we did. And I was talking about how like we as a whole are going through a traumatic experience. Like we're experiencing trauma and everyone experiences it in a different way and has a different reaction. And that people are saying like, "Oh, I'm so tired and I don't know why I'm tired." Like that's part of going through a trauma. That's how your body responds, and that's just what we're all going through, whether it's sadness or anger or frustration or fear. We're going as a whole, as a nation, as the world, we're going through a traumatic experience. And those are the things that happen when you go through trauma.
Yeah, even physically, like weight gain or weight loss
Right.
or drug abuse or alcohol abuse, suicide. Oh my gosh. And then financially, I mean, we're
Right.
all hurting. I was joking with Steve the other day. I said once we get our stimulus check, I mean, we're just going to give it right back for our taxes. So,
So now,
no.
don't even give it. Just keep it.
Just keep the darn thing. Even though it is a blessing for most people, I just feel like we're going to just give it back in the end,
I
tax
know.
wise. But
And back to what you were saying though about like I think with everybody being at home and being faced with this type of environment, um, people that are addicts and people that struggle with depression and anxiety, it's very amplified. This morning, actually, I found out that someone I work with passed away,
wow,
and he he's an addict, a recovering addict, and young and has kids. And I firmly believe that if he was in a regular environment, he wouldn't have gone back into that pattern. But that it messes with you. Like this type of situation really, really messes with you mentally, and I'm sure that that played a huge role.
wow.
So
I'm so sorry to hear that. How
yeah,
old was he? Do you know? You said he was young.
definitely, I would say like maybe early 30s.
Wow, so our age. Wow. And young kids. Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you lose your job, boredom is something that a lot of people are facing with right now. And that's why like you said, I'm so thankful we get to still do things because people are bored and you turn to drugs if you're bored, or if you're depressed or you're uncertain of the future, you're going to turn to things that are quote unquote comforting, especially if you don't have the Lord. But even if you do have the Lord and you struggled with addiction in the past, you might be like, Lord, where are you? Like, why are you letting this happen? I'm just going to turn to drugs and something
Exactly,
here.
exactly. And I think it gets to a point too where people that need what they usually need to function and you can't go out into the world or you're like sneaking out into the world, then there's a chance of the sickness spreading and this and that. It's just like all around, it's that's a terrible thing to have to live with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, one thing I am grateful for during this time, and something I want to talk about was your favorite Corona memes that are going around.
Okay.
There's there's some
Yeah,
really
there's
really great ones.
so many. The two that I really love and also relate to is the one said, I saved them so
I
I
should
could read
take mine.
appropriately. It says, it's Tuesday, or as we call it now, day. I love that one. Because every day I'm like, I don't know what day it
What
is.
day it is,
And
right?
then this one, 2020 is a unique leap year. It has 29 days in February, 300 days in March, and 5 years in April.
Yes. That I just saw the other day. That was so funny. Some
So
of them
funny.
just like crying. The one I saw yesterday was stay home, stay healthy, stay dressed because you never know when someone will FaceTime you. The other day, weeks when this whole thing started, um, Steve was having a face or Zoom meeting with people from the church. And he's doing it in our master bedroom.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
God.
and I walk in, I have my pajamas on, and I didn't know that he was on the Zoom meeting. So like I'm all like, as a girl and as a woman, you don't want people to see in your pajamas with your hair all messed up
I get it.
and so our pastor's like, tell Desiree to get dressed, and so you have like all these comments coming at you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm pregnant, so I'm like uber fat right now, and so you just don't feel or look your best right now, and you have to make sure that nobody's on FaceTime or Zoom in the house, so you're not walking around naked.
For real. Or if you're gonna like be dressed on the top and then pajamas on the bottom, just make sure you don't stand up like during a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Make sure you're muted when if you're gonna say something that you shouldn't.
Yes, there's a lot of different things you have to worry about
Yeah,
right now. Um,
yeah. I love the memes though. I think they're great. So we had talked about like what are some funny things you've done in quarantine?
oh yes.
Have you done anything funny? Or like the funniest thing that you've had to do?
Um, what's funny? Funny thing I've had to do.
I mean, I haven't really.
No,
So
I
I
can't think of
haven't
one.
done anything funny. It's been interesting with like food and trying to figure out
Oh yeah, yeah.
like that. And I actually did bake three different things. Two were
Oh,
successful, one was a major fail. Though I made banana bread and it was terrible. That was the fail. Then I made blueberry bread and that was great. And I made lemon cookies.
all gluten free, all dairy
Correct.
free.
So delicious. So I guess I would say that that's kind of weird and funny because I'm not a baker or a cook, but I got to the point where I was like, I'm so bored. I need to find something to do because I needed a task and I needed to fulfill a task. So I was like, well, I'm just going to Google some things and see what I can find. And I knew that we had blueberries that need to get used to. I just was like, okay, something with blueberries. But that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, that was one of my questions was, what new thing have you done in quarantine? And well, the one thing I've been doing is just learning how to cook really simple, like corn on the cob. Like I
Oh, I
didn't
love
realize it was so easy. Someone had gifted us this whole big thing of vegetables and fruit.
nice.
These clients, yeah, it was super nice. And I'm like, what do I do with this stuff? Like, because I don't know, I don't cook. There was like corn and string beans and tomatoes and apples. Obviously, I know what to do with that stuff. Onions. What else did they give us? But
What
anyway,
kind?
like corn on the cob was so easy. You just put it in the boiling water for 15 minutes. It just tasted so good. And um, what else did I make? Hard boiled eggs. Like just stupid stuff that I never really knew how to do because I never took the
I don't
time
cook
to
any of
learn
those
it.
things.
Like
Yeah.
one time I actually tried to make hard boiled eggs when I was younger, and I remember the eggs cracking inside the water. And I just never tried it again after that because I was so discouraged.
I forget it.
um, So I was like, I'm just gonna go to YouTube and just learn how to do simple, dumb things like that.
Good idea.
And then like baked potatoes, like how to make a good baked potato. Um, and it's nice. Like I feel like I'm finding myself making food every day, and that's something I haven't really done in the past. It's always fast food.
Right. And that's, I think that was one of my other questions is like, what do you think in this time that will change going forward? Like that you've created in this time that you might take with you going forward? Like what are some of those habits?
I think that's a great question. Well, I'm hoping the habit of making food at home sticks because that has always been the biggest hardship for us financially and physically for our bodies. It's always fast food, or even if it's good food like salads and stuff, we're
Right.
always spending money on food. So when I look back every month at our expenses, it's $1,000 in food or
Right.
restaurants.
Right.
Um, so just knowing how simple and easy making a good meal at home can be, I hope to take that with me. Um, and just being a better wife to my husband and being more supportive for him. That too, because this is a really tough time and it's challenging for both of us. So I'm learning how to cope with this big problem, yet be nice to my husband. And hopefully that will carry through.
I feel the same way about that. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, it's hard to slow down sometimes and not have a purpose. So I've been trying to just every day have a routine and stick to the routine. I've been doing a yoga class every day, if not two, which has been really helpful. And playing music consistently, playing my guitar consistently, and just every day being in more of a prayerful state where I have worship music on the whole time that if when I have a work day, the whole time that I'm working, and just really focusing on what I'm saying and what I'm singing and what I'm praying about, and to kind of I want to take that back into my everyday where I'm like in a place where I'm constantly like praising and thanking and being grateful, and also like lifting up people. Like people are constantly asking us for prayer. That's just what happens. Like, hey, can you pray for
Of
this, that?
course.
And we say yeah, and sometimes you say it and then you forget. So I've been trying to get into a habit of when I see something that someone needs right away, like putting that into my mind and praying for it and praying for them, and being more open to praying for people over the phone and things like that. I've come in contact with a couple of people that I had to reach out for my job. And this one woman was very upset because she lost her job and she was about to be homeless with her kids. And I don't know her like in any way, shape, or form. And I just happened to be the one that got her message on my voicemail. So I called her back, and as I was talking to her and giving her some numbers to call, I kept hearing God saying, like, you need to pray for her. You need to pray for her. I'm like, this lady doesn't know me. Like, I don't know her. I don't know if it's okay for me to do that. So
Right.
she was clearly upset. And then a little bit into the phone call, I said to her, would it be okay if I prayed for you and prayed for your family? And she was like, oh my goodness, yes, please. That would be great. So I just prayed over her, and she was sobbing, just sobbing and crying, and I was just praying declarations over her and God's truth over her and her family. And at the end of the phone call, she was just so grateful. And it's I think it's funny because we miss those opportunities sometimes. Like God was really pushing me hard to do that, and I could have just been like, okay, bye, have a great day, given her the information, but I really listened to what he asked of me, and I feel like I don't know what came of that, but I believe that is exactly what she needed, and she needed to know that God was there. She needed to know the presence that she carries with her. So I think
Well,
we need to do more of that.
do you think you'll keep updated with her?
I have her number. I called her about 2 weeks ago. I could call her back. I just don't want to intrude. I don't know, like a balance, because she called because she needs help, but do I then take a chance to call her back and check in? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure where that line is.
Sure. Yeah, it's always hard with new people and boundaries, and
Right.
that is so sad. Like I just put myself in her shoes for a second, and just becoming very thankful that my husband still has his job, and we're still able to do some, well, we both teach voice lessons, so we're both still able to do some virtual voice, and um that's really, really hard. And especially when you
Yeah,
have kids, like I just couldn't imagine taking my son to go live in a car
right.
somewhere.
Exactly. Well, praise report. I have one.
Yes,
Um,
there.
I remember that I talked to you about how a girl I worked with was going through IVF, and we had been like I felt like God had asked me to pray for her at my work, which
Oh,
was so,
wow.
and she has lost some embryos. She was pregnant, and then she lost that baby after like 7 weeks of being pregnant, things like that. And really discouraged. Like they've been doing this for a couple of years, and it's been very hard for her and on her body, and I'm sure on their marriage. And all the time I check in with her, like, how are you? How can I be praying for you? When's your next appointment? Like all the time check in with her. And I, she posted a picture and said happy due date, and it was her embryos that she had lost. And she was like, today would have been the due date. And I just wrote her a message, and I said, like, I want you to know that I'm here and I'm praying for you, and I hope that today you can find joy, that you can just find joy and celebrate, that life. And later in the day, she posted that she's pregnant.
Wow.
Like God used that day for a different reason, and she was able to share. And she's due in September. She posted a picture of the baby, and I just think that's cool that she chose to say, on this day, I'm going to celebrate my child that I lost by telling the world that we are, having a child. And I just think
Wow.
it's really cool.
So how far along would that be? If she's due in September,
I think she's like 16 weeks.
so past her first trimester, which is always
Right.
the scariest one. Well,
Right.
that's amazing. That is so cool.
And they've been praying for this baby for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see how God works.
Yeah, absolutely. She's just having the one?
Yeah.
Okay. IVF?
Hmm.
Okay. Because usually they have twins,
Yeah. This has been
My,
very difficult, very, very difficult for them.
wow. Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah.
But it's cool.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Um, so last night at our small group meeting, we were talking just about some scripture, and my husband mentioned, I think it was Psalm 46. And
Yep.
that was funny because that was something that you were kind of speaking over yourself.
Yes. Still am.
What did
Um,
that verse
I
say?
so the Psalm 46. Ironically, I have that a verse from there tattooed on my ankle,
Awesome.
and I cling to this verse a lot because there's so much truth that you can declare when you read it. And I was just talking about this with my worship circle friends because one of the leaders, I'm not sure who, brought up this psalm, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's so funny. I love that psalm so much. And they brought it up. This is weeks ago at my very last session for that semester. And last night, I've been reading this like every single day. And last night, Steve's like, we're going to read Psalm 46. And I'm like, of course we are.
Hot diggity dang. Of course we are.
The verse that I have tattooed on me is Psalm 46:5. God is within her. She will not fail. He will help her at the break of day. And we were talking about, just last night, we were talking about like what we feel that means. And I think for me, we I cling to the fact that God lives in me, and that there's hope and there's a peace and there's a calmness that comes from him. But the girl that I am, and the flesh side of me holds on to the anxiety and the stress and the control, but I know that God's there and that he'll help me at any time. And so I always hold on to that verse, that he lives in me, and therefore he is there to help, and to help us overcome things like this, you know But I've also been reading another verse a lot, and it is 2 Corinthians 4:14. Is it 4:14? Yeah, 4:14. For we know that the one who raised the Lord Jesus will also raise us with Jesus and present us with you. Indeed, everything is for your benefit, so that as grace extends through more and more people, it may cause thanksgiving to increase to the glory of God. Therefore, we do not give up. Even though our outer person is being destroyed, our inner person is being renewed day by day. For our momentary light affliction is producing for us an absolutely incomparable eternal weight of glory. So we do not focus on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, what is unseen is eternal.
Mm, that's a great verse.
And, right now, everybody is focusing on this,
Yes.
but God is doing something cool that we can't see and that we don't know. And so we need to focus and just trust that.
It's funny. I was sitting in my car and just talking to the Lord about it all, and not talking to him really long, but all I could hear was him saying that it was going to be all right. And then either later that day or the next day, I can't remember, but Steve was talking to the Lord about it, and he's like, yeah, Des, he's just telling me that everything's going to be all right. So it was like the same verbiage, which I thought was really neat. And I've just been able to, like I said, distract my mind from everything that's going around me. And I've always been able to do that. Like when things are going crazy around me, I've always been able to just kind of remove myself from it all, because I think it's maybe just a coping mechanism. And I don't think about it, and I kind of live in my own world, which is a good and bad thing sometimes. But I've been able to focus more on building my marriage, and going through a Bible study called, I think I told you before, I do these coffee cup Bible study things by Sandra Glahn, and she has the Solomon Latte one, and we go through Song of Songs, and it's all about, being married, and just, I don't want to get into too much detail because that's a little, inappropriate for Bible story right now. But that's really where my focus has been, and it's really been helping me just to not think about everything else that's going on. So that's where I'm at right now. And it's been really helpful. And there's a lot of things that I have to work through. And we all have stuff from our past that we take into our marriage, and expectations that we put on our spouses, and disappointments that we have in them. And so that's just really been where my prayer in my heart has been, to build my marriage up. Marriage is hard.
It is. It's hard, especially right now, like close quarters,
Oh, yeah.
do your own things and then come back. It's just everybody all the time, constant.
Yeah.
At one point, like a week ago, Brock was like, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. Every time something, I'd like ask him a question about it, or I'd be like, why are you doing that? Or why are you saying that? He's like, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore.
That's funny. There's, speaking of memes, going back to the memes, there was one about spouses, and there's like two, I don't know what kind of dogs they were. I don't know if you saw it, but one dog was on the bed and one was on the floor, and they would be just sleeping, and then all of a sudden start bickering at each other. And then they would go back to their corners and start barking at each other. And someone posted something like, this isn't what all the spouses are doing right now. And it was so true, because you're sitting there minding your own business.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, one person gets mad at something, you start fighting. And then you go back to your quarters and you start fighting. And it's funny and it's not funny at the same time.
Yeah.
So hopefully, yeah.
What were some of the things you did for Easter?
Oh, that's a great question. We had a really nice Easter, actually. My mom gifted us with, she bought all of us dinner, and all of us meaning my sisters and their spouses. So she said, take my credit card, go get some dinner. So we're like, yeah, of course. So we went to our favorite restaurant. We did take out, obviously. And then we went to the park for our son Tristan. We went to a private park at a church that nobody goes to, and we're still allowed to go to. So it was nice to get out and have him run around and get his energy out. And what else did we do? Then we just went back home and we ate a lot and like we've been doing. I think maybe we watched a movie, but it was like really sweet too because we could celebrate as a family still. I mean, even though we didn't have our extended family, it was nice for us three to come together and have a nice meal. What about you guys?
Um, we I did some cooking amazingly, I know, but I was just like, we
Nice.
have to have some of like real Easter meal because I was struggling with the fact that the first Easter that I actually holiday that I wouldn't be with my family.
Yeah, it's tough.
That was very difficult. And I was trying to focus on the positive and do the best I could. It was difficult. It was weird. I've never not been to church and participated on an Easter Sunday. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think it's the first time in history that services didn't take place. And, so got up and watched the services and started making some things. I made a pineapple stuffing, gluten free. I made like honey glazed carrots and a spinach dish. And that's the day I made the lemon cookies as well.
Nice.
And we as a family got dressed and we set up a table. We had, we got a table out and we had a computer at one end and we zoomed our dinner with my parents.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
we were all together for dinner. And I actually had the idea of us doing communion as a family. So I texted my parents and I was like, I think we should do communion today. I think it would be really great. And my mom's like, okay, you lead. And I was like, oh, I okay, sure. So it was nice though. I was able to before we started eating, I was able to lead us in communion, and my dad, for our meal, and we were still all together through Zoom. But it was nice, but it was weird.
Of
But at
course.
least we were together. It was bizarre,
Yeah.
but yeah, we made it. And even this morning, my mom texted me. She's like, "I missed you guys so much," and she wrote. Um, she asked me a question like about us, what are we up to, and she said, I think if this is going to be forever, then we'll all have to live together.
You'll all be quarantined together.
Yeah,
Why not?
I said I agree because it's weird, like it's just weird not seeing Nev and my grandma and everything like that. I've done some walking since I have been in
Oh
quarantine.
yeah.
Our walks, I did one walk that was 7.5 miles,
Wow.
um, to do a social distancing visit with my friend Doreen,
Oh yeah.
and I did not walk alone. I walked with my friend Amanda. Social distance walked as well, and we've walked to my parents like 3 or 4 times just to visit, and we have seen my grandmom through the door and said hello. And the first time I saw her, she said, "It's so nice to see someone's face." That yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, and those are I think the habit that I want to take is slow down, definitely take time to walk because we can always do that. I actually put the walking on pause because you have to wear a mask now when you walk. And anxiety wise, I cannot do a walk like that wearing a mask. Like, there's just no way I can breathe that way. I had to go to Target the other night to pick up an order and I had to wear a mask. And it was like for not that long. And I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die in here.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely want to do the walking. I definitely want to do a little bit more of like being still. And I want to continue working on music because even though last week I felt really defeated, I really think that I still believe that God's call for my life is to make music and to lead worship. And so even when I get discouraged, like last week I really got discouraged and I was like, I'm not even going to finish this song. Like I felt like there was no way that it would be good enough to do anything with. Like that's just the enemy working, of course, in like that little tiny hole that I have of self-doubt and just magnifying it.
I mean the song that you wrote. We
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I just was like, why am I doing this? Like, I might as well. I was like, forget it. It stinks. Like, no one's gonna listen to it. Why do I even bother? Like, what's the point of it? And Brock was like, I don't think that you should ever feel that way. Like, I believe, that this is your calling for your life. And I think that you're just discouraged. And I think that all of this with the coronavirus and everything has to do with it. And I went to bed that night and I was like, I'm just done. And then the next day I woke up with a slap in the face from God saying, like, get it together, girl.
Mm.
Get it together. So I'm going to get it together.
It's so funny that you say that because I've had the song stuck in my head for a few days, and then last night I actually sang it in my dreams.
What?
It was just in my dreams. I guess I went to bed with it in my head, and then it just filtered into my dreams.
That's so funny.
Also, something totally unrelated, Steve was snoring next to me, and I was sleeping. I didn't know he was snoring, though, but in my dream, his snore sounded like Dez. And so I'm hearing Dez. It's so creepy. Dez. And in my dream, it was the Lord calling to me. I'm like, what? Here I am. What?
You're like, stop saying my name. I'm right here.
I'm right here. And 30 seconds, I woke up and Steve's snoring. And I'm like, that's what I was hearing in my dream. It was,
That's so
I've
weird.
had some really weird dreams. I guess they're, because the pregnancy and all the hormones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But totally unrelated.
That's so funny. I love that it was in your dream.
And
I really got to do it. I'm scared of it a little bit.
of your song?
Yeah, just like scared of putting stuff out there, and I don't know.
And the people not responding to it or engaging with it,
Right.
yeah, definitely scary and discouraging. Because one pastor said that if nobody's really following you, then this probably not your calling, and that's kind of stuck with me. Well, it's stuck with me even till now. I mean, it's been 11 years, 12 years since then, and I'm like, is anybody really following what we're doing? Whether it's the podcast or the music, are people being engaged with what we're doing and kind of gauging success through numbers, which I think is very dangerous.
I think it is too.
But
I don't know. I feel like people, like the response that we've had though, like no one has to comment on anything that we do. Like no one has to watch it. No one has to comment on it. No one has to share it. That's not something that we ask of people. Like, please share this or else. Like people do that on their own. They, they comment on their own, and it's always uplifting, and it's always something like, you guys are great apart, but together there's just something incredible there. Or, I'm so, I can feel God's presence when you lead this or that. Like, to me, that's all that we need. Like, it would be cool to have something that goes out there and blasts into outer space, and 1,000,000 people listen to it and remake it and redo it and worship with it at their church. But if it's doing the job of bringing people into God's presence, then okay.
yeah, it's doing what it's meant to do, whether they tell us or not. And I think that's so true, because there's not music related, but even podcast related. There's podcasts that really help me and bless me, and I love, and I think they're so great, but I never comment.
Right.
I never engage. I just don't, just because,
right.
I'm in my car and I can't, on my phone, but it doesn't mean that it's not helping me. So you can never gauge success by numbers. You just got to do it because you feel God has called you to do it. And sometimes it stinks because you want approval and acceptance from people, especially me. Like when I don't feel accepted by people, it just tears me apart and makes me go into that world.
Oh yeah. 100% same. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you and I are kind of the same that way. So, yeah, I think this has been a really good podcast. This has helped me. I'm sure it's helped you therapeutically just to talk about these issues. And I hope that those listening are really blessed by what we're talking about. And if you do want to reach out, we have Instagram, the Gals Podcast. We got the Facebook Gals Podcast. We got our own YouTube channel now that you can. I don't know if I'm going to post this video on Zoom because I'm looking a little rough. Julie looks, but we'll see. But thanks for chatting with me, Jules.
Yeah, always. It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
weird.
It's nice to see somebody.
It's just so strange. It's just so strange.
It's a
I
strange
just I
heritage.
want to be able to like go for us to go get coffee or like do something normal. Like I just crave that. Like it's so simple. I just want to have like a cup of coffee that someone made for me and sit somewhere that isn't my house and drink it.
Yeah, I know. And one day I believe we'll get back there. I mean, it might not be this month or even next month, but we'll slowly get back into our routine.
I think probably if I had to guess, I would say things may be into a normal swing by August, like a normal feel. I
Yeah.
think will be lifted slowly, 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 slowly. But in order for things to feel like a normalcy, I would say like August would be a guess at this point,
I think
which
that's a
isn't
good guess. I think there will still be restrictions, obviously some social distancing or limiting the amount of people in a group and all, and obviously that's, all good. Um, but yeah, I think that's a good time frame.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
What's
I feel for the eighth graders and the seniors and the kindergartners that
Oh, yeah.
graduations or their prom or their senior trip. But this is a history moment, and I'm sure that somehow they'll get that made up eventually, or they'll do something cool. Like maybe it'll be like this. I don't know. They'll be in their cap and gown, and they'll just like who knows. But
Yeah, I mean, I think of even Tristan, he didn't even get to finish his first year of school, so
right,
elementary school,
exactly.
so that broke my heart. I was thinking about that the other day, and will he go back to school in September? And
I know, like
he's being
she
out on.
misses her friends, she misses her teachers. It's hard to explain to a 6 year old
Yeah,
what is happening and that you still have to do school. Um, and then we haven't actually told her that it got extended to May 15th yet, which probably means till the end of the year, which would be my
yeah.
guess. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Tori got accepted to Rutgers, which is amazing. It's what she was hoping to transfer. And she did her like orientation day like this. Spent the whole day
Oh,
doing Zoom calls and answering questions and asking questions. And we just have to adapt with the time that we have. I truly believe that God is doing, that this is the start of a revival. I said that last night, and I've been saying it for a long time that I felt that God was going to do something really big this year, that there was going to be a revival and a harvest. And I truly believe that in this time, He's bringing so many people back to the beginning, back to focus on what matters and calling out to them. And people are, in turn, really looking to God for this.
hmm.
And so I love that we are able to share online, whether that's Bible studies and us worship leading or the services, because so many more people are engaging because they crave something. And God's setting that focus on Him. And I think that's a really cool thing.
I agree, and I like how I'm seeing more families together, whether that's walking or just being at home together. I think that's really important. I think for Steve, especially because he works so much, it's nice to, not that he doesn't work and we don't really see him because he's off at the studio or the church still. He still has to do some of those things. It's nice that he's home more. Um, that's really been really good for us. And just in general, I know that more families are probably clumped together right now and forced
Yeah.
to spend time with each other, which is good. But to leave us on a funny moment, I was taking Tristan to Chick-fil-A. And like you said, it's hard to explain to kids what's going on. He's almost 4, and I pull up into the very, very long drive-through at
And
Chick-fil-A.
I want to bounce off that real quick. I drove by a Chick-fil-A when I went to Target. They ain't losing any money, guys. They had a line twice around. People parked outside the parking lot with their hazards on, and there was a tent. And I'm like, okay, people need the Lord's chicken.
It's so funny because I actually left the line because I couldn't. I don't
Yeah,
do
you're like,
lines very well. And I went to McDonald's and I thought it was closed because there was nobody there. And I'm
oh
like,
my
oh.
gosh,
And it was terrible. The food was awful.
oh, what a
Usually I
letdown.
like McDonald's, but it wasn't. I
I'm
don't know.
sorry. So what happened with Tristan?
Oh, that's okay. We were standing in line. We are in line, and he's like, "But I want to go inside and I want to play with the kids." Broke my heart. I'm like, "Honey, we can't because there's a virus." He's like, "But I want to go inside." He's taking a fit, and then he just blurts out, "But chicken is healthy." I posted that on social media, and everybody,
Kids.
chicken is healthy, Mom.
Oh my gosh, it's weird.
Oh, I just love what kids come up with.
I'm like, you can tell he's just so frustrated. He didn't even know what to say in that moment, so he just said the chicken is healthy.
So that is our
I think
funny moment.
for our next Zoom gals podcast, we should have the husbands on.
We should totally do that. Why not?
Easy way to have the husbands on. We can do like some funny questions and
We're all together anyway.
exactly.
The
So
whole
we should do
family.
that.
All right. Thanks for the chat, Miss Jules.
Thank you for the chat. Miss you.
Miss you too. Love you, girl. Have a good day in the Lord and be blessed. And it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be all right.
It is all gonna be all right.
Yeah, it will.
That's
It
what
has
God
to.
told you, so I'm going with that.
Yes. My word from the Lord is truth.
No.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.